It's not like any other podcast, coming to you straight from the heartland, where investing is told like it is. It's time for Darren Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. Hold on, because here comes the next episode of the Paranoid Banker Podcast.
Hey everybody, Darren Garman here, and welcome to this week's podcast. We are going to talk about Thanksgiving. And look, don't worry, I'm not going to be preaching about or pontificating about why you need to be thankful and giving thanks. I'm going to talk a little bit about it. But I want to put some things in perspective for you today, this week, because I'm going to talk about some non-related investment stuff. Not related to investment stuff not related to investing. I guess it's saying the same thing, I guess. We're going to talk about some things at least mentally and emotionally to think about. I just got done finishing up my newsletter for my partners. So if you're one of my investment partners, you get a newsletter from me. And in the newsletter, I talked about the Thanksgiving Day holiday, especially how it relates to how we live our lives now compared to how people lived their lives 300 plus years ago. And so you know the story of Thanksgiving, Pilgrims and Native Americans getting together to give thanks and celebrate really life and living. And this was actually over a period of days, so it wasn't just one meal and that was it. I mean, we think of it as one meal and then a series of like 20 meals after that because all the leftovers, right? I mean, but we pretty much think it was one meal and then, but I mean, it was a series of days after that they celebrated. And if you think about it, well, it's reminding my partners, and it's really something we need to think about a lot more. I need to think about a hell of a lot more, because I'm bad at this, is keeping things in perspective, right? So, so if you think about living 300 plus years ago, the Pilgrims, Native Americans, whoever you were living back then, you were giving thanks every damn day because of the living conditions. Think about it. I mean, the life expectancy was what? Late 20s, early 30s, maybe? You had to hunt and find your food, and if you didn't find it hunting, you went without and could have starved. The water, you had to get it from the river or the pond, and you better carry enough with you so you don't run out, and not counting getting sick, wild animals, you name it. I mean, the list is long on how you might not be around the next day. A lot of reasons why you might not be around the next day. And you're just lucky to get from one day to the next. And it was tough living 300 plus years ago. But what do? I mean, what's our perspective? You know, I was at a convenience store the other day. This was when, you know, the big $1 billion Powerball lottery thing was going on. And, you know, a guy in front of me was waiting to get his ticket and waiting. Busy time of day, early morning. I got my coffee. I know the drill, so I'm waiting a little while in line. That's fine. But this guy's like going nuts. You know, he's pacing back and forth a little bit, and he's mumbling under his breath. Well, this poor 19-year-old girl behind the counter is trying to keep up with people as fast as she can. And so he gets up there and he gives her kind of a piece of his mind on why it takes so long and they need more help and this and that. This 19-year-old girl is just trying to get people waited on. And this guy's bitching because he doesn't get his lottery ticket fast enough. By the way, his chances of winning anything by buying that lottery ticket, he'd have a better chance of catching a whale in Iowa than he would winning the lottery. Okay? But yeah, he's going to bitch and moan, and he's left angry and mad, and steam come out of his ears. Over a damn lottery ticket the guy buys, right? Well, how many of us do the same thing, but in different circumstances? So I got pissed off the other night because I took family out to eat. We're at a place we're kind of looking forward to go. We go there and we order a couple of appetizers, right? And so I tell the waitress specifically, I said, okay, here's the deal. We want the appetite, we order our appetizers and our meal at the same time. okay, because they were busy. It'd take me a while until she got back. I said, look, we're going to order appetizers and our meal now, but here's the deal. Here's the deal. We want our appetizers first, okay? They come out first, meal comes out later, okay? Okay, all right, so we got an understanding. Well, you know where I'm going with this. Guess what happens? That's right, the whole damn thing comes out at the same time, right? I was pissed. And I let the young lady know that this wasn't acceptable. And I created a little bit of a scene. Nothing bad, just enough to embarrass my kids a little bit, right? But nothing bad. And really, does it really matter in the big picture? Now, look, I'm one that pretty much, I mean, my philosophy is if, things are not good, like if service is bad or people are doing things wrong, in other words, they're supposed to do this, but they do something different, and it affects you, I mean, you need to say something. You just can't let it go. So if the food shows up cold, it wasn't really cooked, the wrong thing to do is not say anything. I mean, you got to say the food's cold. You got to, okay, if you follow me, I'm kind of one of those guys that at least need to say something just so they know that it's not acceptable. And I'm using a restaurant as an example because it's an easy example, but it, on all areas from employees to you name it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different things that you could point out here. But anyway, my point to this is, I'm bitching about all my food come out at the same time. And these pilgrims and the Native Americans, how much would they have loved all of that to come out at the same time? So it's really interesting what our perspectives are, right, on a lot of things. And so, I was thinking about this a lot. I'm writing this article in the newsletter, I'm getting this info, and I'm thinking, I'm not good at this. I'm not good at really being thankful for a lot of things that I really need to be thankful for. I really need to be thinking more in terms of, hey, this is actually pretty damn good. Okay, so it took me 15 more minutes to get to the office this morning. Okay, well, so what? I mean, I could be traveling horseback. I could be walking. I could run into some rattlesnakes on the way. I mean, really. Especially when you think about what life used to be like. I mean, look. We got it so damn good today it's not even funny. I mean, we do. But what do most of us do? We bitch and moan about stuff a lot. And I'm one of them. I'm one of them. And so my message in the podcast basically is this. I got to get better at really keeping things in proper perspective. Being better at not being so damn self-absorbed with what's going on, and being more thankful about and grateful for what I've got going on. And not only like big picture stuff. I mean, because we're all grateful and thankful for family, friends, kids, opportunity, I mean, the stuff that they make movies with, right? We're all thankful and grateful for that, aren't we? I mean, pretty much 99.9% of us are, right? But it's the everyday things too that I totally lose perspective on, and I got to be better at. So is it really that big of a deal that the guy cut me off in traffic today, that I'm going to honk my horn or get mad or pissed off or start getting mentally agitated, right? Is it really that big of a deal that, one of my pretty good employees came in about 7-8 minutes late for a meeting today, and I got a little bit upset about it. Is it really that big of a deal? There's a lot of everyday things that that I got to get better at. The big picture stuff, I'm pretty good. I think we all are. But it's that everyday stuff. I mean, look, we could be going down to the pond to get water, to the river. We could, we might, good thing we don't have to go out and hunt for our food every day. we have to get the oxen out and the yoke and get our crops in. I mean, that's the way it was. Boy, those people were tough back then. You lived back then, man, you were tough back then, really. So my message to you, just something to think about. And again, I'm not preaching or pontificating because I'm not good at this. But as I'm writing to my partners and covering some of this stuff, and as I'm thinking back to, what life used to be like, especially back in the days when people were really giving thanks, and I mean, they were really giving thanks, brother. My message is really keeping things in perspective and giving thanks for the things that we really take for granted. Because I take a lot of stuff for granted. I really do. And I'm not saying you're like me, but if you are kind of somewhat, at least in my ballpark, you do too. Okay? In the season, I want to just relay that message to you as you go through the rest of your month. Heck, even when it comes to your investments, even when it comes to your everyday things, is it really that big of a deal that you're going to get all upset and all concerned and all worried and all pissed off when there are not only probably bigger things to be worried about and concerned about, but compared to how it used to be in the lives that we've got now, oh, man, it's not even close. And I know, some of you probably, Darren, you don't know what I've been through, and you don't know what I've done, and you don't know what I'm living with, and sure, I'm sure there's some of that out there, I get it. But really, would you rather have what you've got and what you deal with, like that's a chore, what you deal with every day, right now, or would you rather be back 300 plus years ago, dealing with the things on a daily basis you would deal with? I don't know about you, I'll take the things I deal with today, gladly, gratefully, thankfully, today, versus back then. All right. Hey, look, I want you to have a great Thanksgiving holiday. I think we'll have at least one more podcast before the Thanksgiving Day holiday arrives. So you will be hearing from me again. But between now and then, think about what I've gone over today. And maybe it will work better for you, and you'll absorb it better, faster, quicker than I will, than I do. And if you do, good for you. All right? Take care.
Thanks for joining Darren Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. For investment questions, comments, or to get in touch with Darren, go to www.garmanblog.com. Thanks for joining Darren Garman's Paranoid Banker Podcast. For investment questions, comments, or to get in touch with Darren, go to www.garmanblog.com.